This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Notorious 5, Part 12. We left off, Pops Andy had come clean to Q, and Q made it abundantly clear that he plays no games when it comes to his mama. But he kept his reactions and responses focused on JR and his plot against the Queen Mother. But I can imagine how he might respond if he finds out that Pops Andy's involvement with India is somehow connected to all of this. Only caveat is Donovan said there's a snake in their grass, and India can't beat a snake. So who is it? That's yet to be discovered. But what we have discovered is that Donovan knows a whole lot about what transpired at that park between Anya and Christian, because he was there. And he doubled back that night, dressed in all black in a blacked out box truck. He used a construction waste bin to remove something from that park. And since Christian never left on his own volition, the assumption is that he was in that bin. The Queen Mother gave Ron and Anya a whole lot to think about, and she left them with some questions about what condition she was in when she returned to the family after her kidnapping. Q has every available man and woman on the situation with his mother, and he has Woody and Wise running down those details about Christian. At this point, it's not even about discovering what happened to Christian. It's about making sure nobody else can discover it. So after his meeting with Q, LJ went and put things in motion and then went to meet Regina for her virtual therapy session. And Regina, being Regina, set things off immediately. She said, I was going to have Dr. Miranda talk to you for a few minutes by yourself. But the reality is, you either going to talk or you not. So I'm going to just get right to it. It feels like you throwing a hot dog down a hallway when we getting it in. And you've got to be feeling it too. I mean, when I first came back, I was having a difficult time getting into it. So it was a little uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but overall, it felt good. And then I worked through the things that was holding me back and got back to hitting them big O's again. And then it started feeling like we was on a damn slip and slide. Poor LJ was in the middle of sipping a cup of tea when his wife decided to drop the tea. The man almost choked to death. Then Regina said, I was investigating ways to resolve it myself. Then Dr. Miranda suggested that we have a conversation about it. After my conversation with Pops, I realized that we needed to have that conversation. LJ said, yo, I don't know what Pops could have told you, but whatever it was, got you talking crazy. Regina said, because we not going to have no cheating up in this here marriage. And I ain't getting no divorce, so we need to address this once and for all. I know and you know that you packing. So ain't no way in the world I should be having a hard time feeling you. And if I'm having a hard time feeling you, you got to be having a hard time feeling me. LJ said, baby girl, I ain't got no problem having this conversation with you. But I'm not having it with you and Dr. Miranda. No offense, Doc. Regina looked at the screen and said, told you. Dr. Miranda Lopez is Emmanuel Lopez's other daughter. She's a psychiatrist that Angela was seeing over those 3 months when she was in Puerto Rico, hiding out from the Newport family. And she's been providing Regina with therapeutic services since she was found after she was kidnapped by the Newport family. Dr. Miranda said, well, Regina, we discussed this. And this was not just about getting LJ to share his experience, but giving you the support that you needed when you shared yours. You shared what you've been experiencing physically. Do you want to share how that's been impacting you emotionally? Regina and LJ had agreed that Regina would not share the intricate details of what transpired when she was kidnapped. They agreed that it was embarrassing for her to share with him and that it might be embarrassing for him to hear. While he's not completely in the dark and he's well aware that his wife was violated, he doesn't know how many times or by how many men. So while Regina has no issue discussing their sex life with him, she's had a hard time addressing this particular issue because of the emotional implications. In response to Dr. Miranda's question, Regina said, it makes me feel like a whore. I gave birth to 3 children vaginally and my walls was intact. I never gave you a blow by blow of what I went through because it was unnecessary and embarrassing. But at this point, it has to be clear that what I went through had a physical effect on me long term. And I don't like that. I want to dig them bastards back up from wherever they buried and kill them again. I wanted to see if I can get a replacement, but I checked, and they don't do transplants. You can get a new hip, you can get a new heart, but you can't get a new kitty cat. When Regina looked over at LJ, he was doing everything in his power not to laugh. Regina laughed, and then everybody laughed. Dr. Miranda said, Regina, I promise that I am not laughing at you. I am laughing with you. Regina said, I understand. It's funny, but it ain't funny. Dr. Miranda said, what I'll do is I will give you all a few options to discuss at your leisure. And then she ran down some non-invasive, non-surgical options, as well as some semi-invasive options, and then the surgical ones. And then she said, I'm sure you already have a gynecologist, and I don't know if your gynecologist does vaginal surgery, but my sister, Dr. Maribel, actually does. As a sexual health expert and a reproductive specialist, this is one of her areas of expertise. So if you do decide that you want to go the surgical route, follow up with her. Even if you don't choose her to perform whatever procedure you choose, she can at least provide you with her professional advice. Then she said, and if you don't decide to go the surgical route, but you do want to do a semi-invasive procedure, like laser therapy, she can also refer you to someone who does that. I'm going to send you a link to a product that I've recommended several times in the past, and my patients have all told me that it works well. It is FDA approved, and it's a temporary solution. She sent the link, and then she explained. This product contains a 1.5% solution of potassium alum, which is a natural mineral compound that's been used for centuries in holistic and traditional medicine and for personal care. Regina said, how does it work? Dr. Miranda said, well, it temporarily tightens and firms tissue. The effects last for up to an hour, and it only takes about 30 minutes to take effect after internal application. Now, the brand that I'm recommending also contains hyaluronic acid, which will improve the elasticity of the vaginal tissue, aid in tissue regeneration, and improve hydration and moisture retention. OJ said, oh, it's plenty moisture. Plenty. Dr. Miranda said, well, alum has a tendency to make things a little drier, so the hyaluronic acid will combat that. LJ said, oh. Dr. Miranda said, it also increases arousal. Now, this product also contains allantonin, which helps to strengthen and tighten the tissue over time, so its effects are longer lasting. It also has chamomile for soothing and improved female satisfaction, and L-arginine, which increases the blood flow to the area, making it more sensitive to stimulation. Regina said, I gotta order this online, or can I pick it up from the store on my way back home from work? Dr. Miranda said, it's available online in some stores. I'll send you a list. When the couple finished the therapy session, LJ said, so I appreciate you setting this up, but that was wild. I don't know that I would describe it as throwing a hot dog down the hallway. Regina said, hey, I was just keeping it real. LJ said, babe, there's keeping it real, and then there's uncouth. I think you crossed that line. The couple discussed the issue between them, and when they were done, LJ headed over to Maribel's to meet Q and Zoe. Typically, they did all of their work at the firm because their systems were built airtight, and the building was wired with state-of-the-art technology to protect their work. One of the reasons why Q asked to stay at Maribel's estate was because he knew that the firewall and VPN built into the property would provide the protection that they needed to conduct their investigation. And the house that he'd recently procured for Woody wasn't completely up to specification. Q, LJ, and Lorenzo found out everything there was to know about India. Her husband was not a wealthy realtor. In fact, he had been seriously ill for almost a decade and dead for almost 5 years. They didn't own a house or any other property, and he certainly didn't have any life insurance. When he died, she took the traveling nursing position because it allowed her not to have a permanent residence and put more money in her pocket because she was struggling. Her last assignment was in New York City, where she got into some trouble and was under investigation. In lieu of being fired and having her nursing license taken away from her, she quit and allowed her license to expire. And somehow, her financial situation dramatically improved. And then she relocated to Texas. Since arriving in Dallas, her financial situation has continued to improve, despite the fact that she is unemployed. The list of lies that she fed Pops Andy did not stop there. She doesn't own a house or any other property in Dallas. And without a license, she certainly won't be opening an assisted living facility. Her Texas Power account shows that she's renting a house on the south side of Dallas. Q said, so we need to find out who her benefactor is. If we follow the money, we'll find out who's really behind her walking into Donovan's company. He called Woody and Wise. They came over to the estate, and after a brief discussion, they agreed that since Wise couldn't be connected to the family, he was new to the area, and he wasn't Trini, it wouldn't be suspicious at all if he ran into India on the south side of Dallas. In fact, he'd fit right in that neighborhood. During Woody and Wise's downtime, Wise had shown that he was pretty good with the ladies. He had been making up for lost time since he was in prison and charming a different woman every night. So Q figured that India just might need her a handsome, younger man to be friends with. Meanwhile, Anya's agreed to allow the Queen Mother to give Pops Andy a redacted version of what she's been through. So when Pops Andy stopped by Donovan's house to talk with the Queen Mother said, now Andy, it was hard enough for her to share it with me. So you have to understand that it's not something she wants to share with you or anybody else. At least not right now. All you need to know is that the man who's responsible has been handled. And the only reason I'm telling you any of this is because you need to have a conversation with your daughter and your new son-in-law. When she told him about the difference of opinion they've been having about whether to get those DNA results, Pops Andy said, maybe it's just a lawyer in him, that he feels like he needs all the facts. Cause I can't see why the man would even want to know that. What good use does he think it's gonna serve? The Queen Mother said, I don't know why a man would even want to know. The baby is gone. They're grieving the loss. He claims that he was gonna be the father regardless of the baby's DNA. Pops Andy said, exactly. So I don't understand. The Queen Mother said, I don't either, Anders. So then Pops Andy called Anya. Ron was making dinner, and they asked that Pops Andy come over as soon as he could. So he did. When Pops Andy got there, he said, I'm sorry that this happened to you, Anya. Your mother didn't tell me everything, but she told me enough. And I'm here anytime you want to talk about what you've been through. Anya used ASL to thank him for his support and concern and let him know that it wasn't a topic she ever wanted to talk about again. When Pops asked Ron what purpose he felt like it would serve to get those DNA results, Ron told him that it was just a matter of him needing all of the information. It wasn't going to change anything for him, but he just needed to know. Then Pops Andy told them about the Queen Mother's return after her kidnapping, and he said, your mother was pregnant. And back then, there were no in utero tests for DNA. And even if there were, we just lost our son. And she was just finding out that your brother died. She just returned from being tortured. And she was also facing charges. We needed to focus on getting her reintegrated into the family, dealing with the emotional and physical trauma, and dealing with the loss of our baby boy. That wasn't the time to be having a baby. Especially not a baby whose parentage was questionable. I don't know what I would have done if your mother would have told me that she wanted to have the baby. But I was relieved that she didn't. I was as supportive and understanding as I could be. But I focused all my attention on her, on what she needed. I was in awe of her strength. Her resilience was amazing. I couldn't understand how she wasn't ready to off herself under the circumstances. And yeah, she had support and she did therapy, but you've got to imagine that was a lot for one woman. And she still had to mother 3 children and be a wife. Now, she was tough as nails before that, but the woman that she became after that was a different breed. You have to imagine that it made her harder, more on guard, hyper vigilant, and hyper aware. It took a long time for her to soften up, and she never went back to the way she was when we first got married. I can't imagine what keeping that baby would have done, or what finding out that I wasn't the father of that baby would have done. If I could tell you anything, I'd tell you to focus on healing and focus on minimizing the impact that you allow this experience to have on each of you, individually and collectively. Then on your side, I refuse to let this break me. If anything, it's gonna make me stronger.